Welcome to the Wildlife Wire. I'm Mark Searles,
And I'm Samantha Miller.
and this is your source for wildlife news and the people that make it. Hey, everybody. Just wanted to let y'all know that we are shaking things up a little bit here at the Wildlife Wire. We're now going to be doing news on Tuesdays and interviews on Thursdays. Hope you like the new format. I taught Sophia something the other day when we were riding on a roller coaster.
What'd you teach her?
And it goes back,
Uh-huh.
and then it drops you, and you go around. And as we came to a stop, I yelled out, "I regret nothing!"
Was she into it?
Yeah, she did it the next time.
Yeah, I prefer to live a life with no regrets, but we do have some gratitude to extend and a plea for assistance. Is it a plea? Is it a note of encouragement? What do you got?
I am so thankful for all of our listeners, and we're up in the top 30 nature podcast in the U.S. Very consistently now, and I just wanted to thank everyone for making that possible, and then maybe a little plea, maybe please, if you are a avid listener and do enjoy this content, to make sure that you have subscribed, that you like it. Give us a 5-star rating and a review, and tell a friend.
Shameless plug for ourselves. Thank you, Mark, but also a big bag of thank you to our listeners.
Absolutely.
What you got for us today? What do we learn about?
Oh man, I have one
News?
that's out of Colorado.
It's a news story out of Colorado?
It's a news story out of Colorado,
Ooh,
and it
okay.
has a 3-line title.
What is it?
How Colorado's first elk migration agreement marks a big step for conservation and agricultural productivity.
Ooh,
Quite the headline, huh?
where was that published?
That was our very own Denver 7 ABC.
Oh, okay. Whole article in the headline there. What did we learn?
Yeah, so there's a ranch in Jefferson, Colorado called Eagle Rock Ranch, and they have just entered into a 5-year conservation agreement with the Colorado Cattlemen's Agricultural Land Trust and the Property and Environment Research Center.
Ooh.
So what does that mean?
It looks like there's agreements going on. There's legalese happening.
Yes. Yes, all of it is happening. And so why is to uh, allow elk to graze on his land. And not just allow them to graze on his land, but he's opening some sections of fence he's laying down. Other sections he's putting like some high vis stuff on the fence post, and then leaving a gate open in a path that only the elk use. And so they're funneling through there. He's had no issues. He came about this because he was just, after ranching there, and he couldn't take pulling another elk out of a fence. And
They
so
were
he,
barbed wire fences?
yeah.
And now they're more wildlife friendly.
Yeah. And so he was like, well, how do I do this? And so he partnered with these two organizations. And so like he'll leave one pasture open all summer without any cows on it. And it'll allow the grass to grow. And then that grass will then be utilized by the elk in the wintertime.
Ooh.
Yeah. Yeah, and so he is paid through these other organizations. Um, they're paying a premium uh, for him to conserve this land for elk.
And is it so they can hunt the elk?
So there are conservation easements, which around the country have all kind of different uh, changes that they're allowed to make. Like I know in Florida, if you have over 5,000 acres, then you could have a rifle season during bow season for deer. Yeah, so like there's all kind of different things. It I'm not it doesn't go into like is are these organizations getting any kind of kickback? I dug a little bit into what each of these organizations does, though. And so the first one, which is the Colorado Cattlemen's Agricultural Land Trust,
Mhm.
with a title as long as the article's title.
Very true.
And so they are all about land trust, like their name says. So they've put 810,000 acres in conservation easements and all through Colorado. And they do get paid by like each time a rancher decides to put his land into a land trust, it could cost him anywhere between like 80 and $160,000. So so it's like a that's how these organizations, I think, one piece of how they get their funding, and then the rancher then gets all kind of like federal and state tax incentives and a lot of different things there. But then they also the value of their land decreases when they go to sell it. It's like anywhere between like 25 and 65% it could have.
So it's a win-win-win though, because you can't do different types of development on it then after
Right.
you go into an easement. So that way it still protects this property. It's allowing for the elk migrational corridors,
Hmm.
and it ensures that this private land can be limited in use for future generations. And private land is such a huge part of the puzzle, too. I was just taking a tour a week ago on one of our colleagues' ranches, and she has over 500 acres near Forest Service land. And you were with me on said tour, weren't you?
Hmm.
I
Hmm.
barely
I
remember.
was.
Yeah, that's why I said I was just talking to myself.
Yeah, I was like, I wonder where she went. Oh yeah, I was there too.
We were both there, and it abuts public land, and it's so important that we do have mechanisms for private landowners to ensure enduring conservation, because it does cost them in the long run. If they want to sell it, it does decrease in value. And it was so interesting seeing all of the animals that do move through private land. We got to see elk and deer sign and mountain lion sign and bear sign and bobcat. And it was really, really cool. Is there a downside to this that you've seen?
Um, Not that I've seen yet, but I'm not sure. But talking about like being able to sustain land. So my grandfather had a couple of farms. He had like 13 properties, and after he died, we ended my grandmother was like, I can't keep paying taxes on this land. Like the taxes are killing me.
Yeah,
And so something like had this been around at that time, or we had known about it, that could have saved those farms from becoming subdivisions. uh,
right.
but yeah, I don't I'm sure there is some kind of downside. They do have a myths and facts section on their website. You could certainly check it out at ccalt.org and learn all your Colorado Land Trust uh, trivia there. Then I looked into the other organization, though, the Property and Environment Research Center. This one I was going through, and so they're called Perk. And I was going through and I was like, ooh, oh,
Ooh.
ooh, oh.
Tell me about Perk. What was the roller coaster ride that was Perk?
Well, they have a banner which was a ooh, and it was new virtual fencing pilot projects.
Okay.
And I was like, okay, Mr. Matt Barnes just talked
Yeah.
about virtual fencing in our last episode.
Yeah.
And this they have, I think it was $400,000 up for grabs to start using virtual fencing, and they're spread out through Oregon, Montana, Wyoming, um, California, and then there's one here in Fremont County, Colorado. And so these virtual fencing is being used for conservation projects in various situations. Like in California, it's wildfire mitigation. In Oregon, it's conflict management for wolves. Here in Colorado, it's riparian restoration. There's greater sage grouse going on. So real, and even pollinator conservation in Wisconsin.
Oh, see, look, I'm on the ride with you now, Mark.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah. And then I was continuing on their beautiful little topographical background uh, website, and then I found something on the North American model of wildlife management, and I was like, oh, it said rethinking it, and I was like, oh yeah, I'm digging off of the virtual land or the virtual fencing. And I was like, yeah, these guys doing some good thing. Let's think about that North American oh, they want to introduce more market hunting.
Oh no.
I was just like, what?
But of like bison on expanded range or
No, no, this one actually is something I would like to learn a little bit more. Like there were some valid points in it.
put a pin in it right now, Mark. Let's put a pin in it.
Well, they were addressing white-tailed deer populations being too high. And instead of someone just giving that meat to someone or like hoping to find a home for some meat, um, they're talking about, maybe hunting more, allowing more hunters to go out and kill more deer and then being able to sell that like farm to table style. And my gut immediately was like, no. And then I'm willing to find out more about it. I'm not saying I'm pro market hunting,
No, you
but
definitely not
I
saying
would I would be curious to see like what they actually see as the grand scheme on that.
they got you with the virtual fence and lured you into a false sense of security right onto the market hunting page.
Oh. Yeah, there were some that the white-tailed was the only one that I was like, okay, I would like to learn more. The other ones I was like, dude, no, like, but killing alligators in Florida provides jobs, and then they could sell that meat. And
Oh,
I was like,
okay.
uh,
We'll think about that a little bit more. Did you want to hear my story? It's a fun one, but it's interesting, but it's fun. It's a little sad, but fun.
so you're saying I should listen?
Yes, I was saying you should listen. And part of my inspiration came from you. Part of my inspiration came from TikTok.
Oh,
And
that's a dangerous combination.
so you and TikTok. And that is that there is a nonprofit group that is called More Perfect Union that is trolling Doge for its cuts to national parks. And they are doing such a good job of it. And I love it. It makes me so happy. I love it when people use humor to really drive a political message. And that way we can kind of laugh at the absurdity, which is something you and I often do. But the great thing is, these are like, it's like Death Valley, safety is a risk, but there's no one here to save you, that kind of thing. And, welcome to Rocky Mountain National Park, understaffed now, thanks to Doge. Uh, so these billboards are everywhere in all of the national park kind of airport areas, gateway communities. And as someone who lives in a national park gateway community, it's so important to me because our parks are just barely staffed, or they were barely staffed as it was. And I'm
Yeah.
so nervous about this summer. And so, folks that don't know, Rocky Mountain National Park has a road that runs through it. It's the highest elevation continuous highway in the continental United States. And it's called Trail Ridge Road. And it goes from Estes Park to Grand Lake. And that road is closed by snow every winter. And then come summer around Memorial Day, probably any day now. I don't know. We've got a storm. They open the road and then the tourists start flooding into Grand Lake and into the park and drive the road through the park. It has a devastating impact on the national park. Our national parks are getting loved to death. I've seen this with Rocky firsthand. They now have scheduled entry and timed entry and all sorts of different ways to mitigate the overuse of this land in different national parks. Each system's a little different, has its own nuances. I digress. We love our parks a lot, but we already barely had enough people to take care of the parks, to man the parks, to work the trails, to provide awesome educational programs to visitors, to work on endangered species in the parks, to look at really cool things in experimental parks like Yellowstone. And now we have even less. So I think it's brilliant that we have these billboards going up everywhere. I think we should all be super concerned about the cuts that Doge has made to natural resources, to national parks, to Fish and Wildlife Services, to NOAA. We've got cuts across the board to folks that have done a lot of work, not work that we always agree with either, but good work. You know, they've done the work for the government on the environment, and those are the folks getting cut, not the folks that are, aerial gunning coyotes, pew, pew, pew. It's the folks that are really doing a service for the environment and for the people that like to just experience it. And I say, go, you go, Glen Coco, you've got this. And uh, there are some really fun TikToks. I think they're spoof TikToks, but they are just trolling Doge too. And they've all taken different national park names and just made accounts constantly harassing Doge in its own kind of fashion. So if you're ever on TikTok, just put in national parks and search for users, and you'll just get a ton of videos that are hilarious. So highly recommend. 10 out of 10. Thoughts and comments, Mark?
I like it a lot. So is this a political entity? Are they only focusing on national parks?
No, they are actually they are focused on a couple different things, mostly towards the environment and around labor. And this is really where environment and labor converge. And it's called More Perfect Union. It's a nonprofit. And they focus on making needed reforms through media. And so they certainly came up with a good campaign here. And if you click on the story, you'll be able to see a whole gallery of all of these billboards too across the country.
Awesome. Yeah. I saw one of those and I made me do a U-turn and pull into an abandoned parking lot and take a picture.
I know. And you sent it to me, and I was like, I want to do that as my story today. And you're like, of course you do. I saw something newsworthy and you want to claim it, which is
Literally just taking things from your inbox and saying, okay, yeah, I'll do that one. No, I love it. I love it. I mean, this is exactly the kind of thing that will get people engaging, hopefully. And I mean, it's so crazy. As you were speaking, it's like if Doge were to tell you you need to tidy up your room, and then you just closed your laptop and said, "Okay, I did." It's like, that's what? It's like, why would you go after organizations that are barely hanging on anyway,
yeah. I just
and like get no funding, but it's like, well, let's not worry about the $900 billion military budget.
well,
Crazy.
SpaceX needs to make its money somehow, and those
Yeah.
governmental contracts are lucrative. So yeah, I think it does speak to the larger issue. The programs that are getting cut are the programs that serve all of us. I know that there are so many people across the country that care about public lands, and it's one of the few things I think that really make it differentiate America from a lot of different other countries is that we have these massive national parks and forest service lands and BLM lands that we can all use and recreate on. And I think it's all of our jobs to ensure that they're protected. And we don't want to fire the people that are taking care of them for all of us every day.
I 100% agree.
You want to talk about whales, Mark? What
Do
do
I
I
want
want?
to talk about whales?
I want to talk about whales.
Well,
You have
I had so much fun the first time I brought up right whales. Remember the right whales that kept turning right and ended up in Alabama?
I do. They weren't wrong about where they were going. They were right, going right.
Yeah, they just too many. They're hard right. They're like the mirrored version of a left turning NASCAR driver.
They're not ambi turners.
Now they go one direction. So apparently they continued turning right and started heading back to where they came from, which is Canada. So most of the time, these right whales, which are highly endangered, there's only about 370 of them left. Uh,
Mhm.
and so these whales had come down from Canada. They normally stop off the east coast of Florida in the Atlantic Ocean. They got to Key West and made a right, and then came up past Tampa and up into uh, lower Alabama. And so they figured it out. These two whales made it back. They were just spotted back uh, off the coast of Canada.
Wow. So they found their way back to their original home. I'm gonna miss them in Alabama though, because it was fun seeing them be right and also be wrong at the same time.
Right? I mean, that's so so right and wrong. And but how cool is that? Like to have gone all the way up the other side of Florida and then figuring out no, how did they like how did they backtrack and not get lost in the Caribbean, and then Johnny Depp is there and it's just all bad news.
They made it back and there were no pirates involved. So good win for them.
Yeah. Yeah, good job, Wales.
Thanks for sharing, Mark. I appreciate that. You were limited on your puns. I expect more from you next time, and I appreciate knowing that the whales found their way home.
That's it.
That's it. That's just how we're ending it.
This has been an episode of The Wildlife Wire with me, Mark Searles, and my co-host, Samantha Miller. Thank you for listening.